Good evening, everybody. It's 5 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and call this special called meeting to order at 5 p.m. I'm Julie Smith. I'm the chairman, but I'm handing the chair over to Cara Douglas. She's going to be taking over. So I'm just going to be shadowing her for the rest of the year. Congratulations.
So for those of you who have not been in on this the entire time, we're working through getting the voting on the location, character, and extent. And so you can call that a site approval of the property that's across from Noble Park on Highway 21. And so we've been working through it the past couple of weeks. We had a meeting 2 weeks ago, and we have a couple of our members who have not seen everything that they needed to see to make a decision about this approval of the location, character, and extent. So we've had a couple of weeks. Steve Masters from Parks and Rec has sent us a tremendous amount of information, so we have all of that now, and we're going to move ahead. And just remember that our job tonight as the Planning Commission is to vote on what we recommend to the City Council for that location, character, and extent. I've sent Eric Wright with East Alabama Regional Planning and Development Commission is here, and I've been leaning heavily on him. So if you see me looking to the front, he is helping us with sorting through all of this and getting this moving forward. So we will. Okay, so before we get to all of that, let's do our roll call.
Jane McGee.
Here.
Jim Heichel.
Here.
Nancy McKay.
Here.
Philip Morris.
Here.
Tiffany Nix.
Here.
Julie Sanders.
Here.
Tara Douglas.
Here.
Keith Honeycutt.
Here.
And Alvin Crawford.
Here.
Okay, so can I get a motion to adopt or amend the agenda?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, so what we're going to do is open the discussion with the commission members. We do have Mr. Masters from the Parks and Rec, and we also have Mr. Coleman here, so we've got a couple of people that can answer questions if we have any. But I'm going to open up the table for discussion, and then we'll move forward from there. So if anybody has any questions, concerns among the commission, then now's the time to bring that forward.
I got a question. Is the road up there going from 21 through to Avondale Trucking, is that gonna stay open, or how's that gonna work?
It is supposed to stay open.
Central Avenue, it
Yeah.
will remain just like it is.
Okay, so where's, the parking lot's gonna be below that?
Parking lot will be below.
Okay. I went and looked at the sites that you sent out. I was okay with the sites, but has AlDOT done a study on this?
So Michael Rice, who the city uses all the time, has reached out to AlDOT. We gave them the extent of the building, and at this time, they've determined they didn't need to do a traffic study. But once we get closer, in the actual deal, that they would determine how we enter and exit that property on 20.
Okay. And at what point will the core drills be done?
We are basically stopped in our process now. Ryan would probably be the best one to answer the question about the building.
Core drilling would probably happen around the end of schematic during design development. Right now, we're really close to that. So once you determine the footprint of the building, they will core drill at the corners to determine what the soil condition is at the corners. So it's not time for the core drilling yet. Well, all we have right now is the preliminary study that the council requested, which was not core drilling, that was, excavating holes and studying the site that way.
And one other question I got, if this thing is core drilled at the corners of the building and they say no, and then we go ahead and vote and say, fine with us to build it, who's gonna stop it then?
Well, it's highly unlikely that there's a condition out there where they say no, and I'm just going to give you an example, finding a sinkhole is like finding a needle in a haystack type scenario. It's highly unlikely that that's the feedback you get, especially when you're 8 feet, 9 feet from bedrock. They will eventually run into that. And so that's not a likely scenario, but let's pretend that that was the case. Well, then the recommendation would come back from the structural engineer that there would have to be an astronomical amount of money put in the ground to do that, and then you push time out, you don't continue. I mean, that's a scenario that's not gonna happen, or very likely will never happen, but that's what you would do at the time. You come back and present it to, not you guys, but to the city, and say, hey, this is what we found.
Okay. And then if ALDOT comes in and does a study on it and they want to do some stuff to make it safer for people to get there and get out of there, are you planning on, or the rig planning on spending the money to make it that way? Or you gonna call it quits, or what, how's that gonna work?
Well, if ALDOT, first off, ALDOT has taken a preliminary look, and they were not concerned about it. As a matter of fact, I think they even told us that they are the ones who direct a traffic study. If they see it's warranted, at this time, they don't feel that. So I guess ALDOT could come back and suggest something. We'd have to cross that path when we get there. We don't anticipate anything like that at the time.
All right, that's all I have.
Madam Chairman, was looking at it, and after Steve, you over there. After he, said that they had to reach out to the state and ALDOT, the aesthetics of it, and only one I've seen with some of the other sites that y'all looked at in the past and planted this, it's obvious that the place they want to put it's going to be the best place. Our job is just to say, yeah, it'll work. It's not our opinions of what we think it ought to be or how it should be. The drawings we've seen 2 weeks ago was just blew me away. So with what I've heard, I feel comfortable moving forward. Okay.
Anybody else have any questions before we?
Madam Chairman, I have an issue with the traffic. In the last meeting, I heard Mr. Masters, I believe, said they're gonna paint a crosswalk on Highway 21 coming into town. I can't see how a crosswalk would work on a northbound route out of Sylacauga. They're not downtown Birmingham, I know. But if I was 14, 10, 12 years old, coming to a swimming pool or coming to play basketball, I would cross that road wherever I could without some form of study to where there's safe access from the other side of that street. I have a problem with that because kids gonna be kids, adults gonna be adults. I do remember in the newspaper a couple of years back, we had a couple people got hit by cars up there. We want to increase the traffic in that area. I also saw one spot in your note that said all traffic has to turn right. I went out a couple of times since I've been involved in this, trying to figure out that little hump, that little blind spot you see, you can leave 10th Street or Central Avenue. There's an issue with narrowing that down from a 4-lane with a turn lane, 5 lanes, I guess it is, if I'm kind of correct. And the amount of traffic out there, we've had issues with people being already struck by cars. I'm not convinced not to hold that project for that location. Traffic increase in that spot there, who all in here takes a habit of driving down 10th Street trying to get out there between Jackson and that service station? That's an issue now. And if we go any further up the street, come off Central Avenue, I'm old enough to remember when that area used to actually hold water and flood down in front of Avondale and back across that ditch down there. And I don't see that 20-year flood coming, maybe, but I still have a bad issue with traffic for bicycle riders, for car drivers, for truck drivers, and for the kids crossing that street. I know you see them put sidewalks in, but think of myself, back in my day, I crossed that street wherever I could, the shortest route possible with that swing. I have an issue with that, and that's not gonna remove it because there hasn't been one person that told me that there was a study done that was safe for people to cross that part of the street. Am I correct?
And you know, you and I had this conversation after the last meeting, and we definitely heard your concern. We came up with this slide. The yellow lines are existing sidewalks in Sylacauga, Alabama. And you'll notice I walk the streets 5 days a week, every morning, or ride my bike down. And With those sidewalks, you can walk from Drew Court, from the Oak Apartments, from the hospital, from Sylvan Courts, from Sylacauga High School, from Comer High School, and from the Earth Project, and never step off a sidewalk. As far as crossing Broadway, there are 13 crosswalks. 12 of them are at traffic lights with a signal. One's in front of the main school where they can gain access from that side of Broadway to the other side. And then the green circle in the top is where the actual crosswalk would be, connecting the new sidewalk on the property with, I've already contacted the street department and the police chief, and there'll be LED stop signs put there with a crosswalk painted across 10th Street.
And you're planning on accessing, Broadway, Northern as well, right?
Yes, sir. We want to have parking
You'll flow.
access on North as well. That will be overflow with a pedestrian bridge at this time to get you across.
But you will flow traffic through, right?
Yes.
From both,
Yes. Yeah,
which
we've already-
release a lot too.
Yes.
Okay.
So, as far as foot traffic, I've worked at J. Craig, which is 2 blocks away from this, for 17 years. The only time we have a lot of pedestrians show up at one time is when school lets out. During the summer, 9 times out of 10, a parent's dropping them off. The kids that do walk, if you come out of Drew Court and you hit the main sidewalk on the other side of the stadium, is going to carry you straight across Broadway at a red light, you get to Norton. If you actually come out of Drew Court on the old Talladega Highway access, the sidewalk starts and takes you down Talladega Highway. You cross Main right there and you come up 8th Street where there's also a red light and a crosswalk.
I would think, again, because before this meeting, I drove out and came around Central Avenue. There, between Jackson and Park, someone run across the street there. And at the service station, somebody run across the street there. So I still have an issue with people saying, I know this sidewalk is designated for sidewalk pedestrian, doesn't take it for jaywalking through enough. But somebody's child, I didn't say you gonna follow that sidewalk, but somebody's child gonna cross that street without being on the sidewalk. I guarantee it.
Or other way-
You say you walk the streets every day, you say you're out there every day, but it just seems strange to where if traffic gotta leave that place and one that is turning right, you can't go left, that's a hindrance for. We're gonna increase the traffic in that area, so 600 people should hold something I read somewhere, am I correct?
That's max capacity if we have to.
If they had the banquet there, whatever they're gonna have there, it would be 600 people. Everybody gotta turn right now. I'm not the best driver, I'm a good driver, I'm a safe driver. But coming off 10th Street, Central Avenue, the one that come out of those apartments up there, there's an issue with traffic getting on to 21 and crossing that street.
And that's definitely, that's beyond Park and Recreation's control. That's not exactly what we do, but AlDOT is very aware of this program. They've got our drawings, they know the extent of the building and the property, and that's what they do for a living. So obviously, we'll follow whatever they tell us to do.
I don't mind following what AlDOT tells us to do. I'm concerned about the young kids in this city and some adults that cross that street. A crosswalk is not going to do it. Even a year or so ago, Jacksonville State had a kid got hit. There was in a crosswalk that was painted on the street up there. That was on campus. So I'm mindful of the fact that the city's record department, yes, best location. I heard you said something about the food work project had to be
Environmental study.
environmental study, but they built a grocery store there years ago. That grocery store sit there for 15, 20 years, and people use that grocery store. So how much of an environmental study wasn't done then, it'd be done now on that property, I don't know.
I received that information from Mike and Building and Code. I try to trust professionals when they tell me something, but the thing he was telling me about it was, we're digging a big hole. Like, we're not just moving the topsoil around or anything else. We're building a very large swimming pool. And in order to get below that topsoil is when you're gonna run into things that could be an environmental issue.
And the other area was Lake Louise, I believe, that came out with a swimming pool out there at one time, wasn't it?
Years ago, they wanted to remove the beaver dams at Lake Louise, and I can tell you from personal experience, you have to have waivers on walk that property.
But all those sites had already been checked out. So I think everybody's already been through that process, and this is the site that was chosen, because I mean, the food world property was my choice. But, you know, I was a little disappointed my choice wasn't picked, but this is the site that, was chosen, and this is also the site that the bond that the council has issued is based on that site as well. Because we were under the impression that this is the site that the community center was going in.
I'm not privy to this.
Yeah. And also too, Mr. Crawford, and I get your point, I mean, I have children too, but if you think about it, I mean, if you could drive down 21 every single day, you know how many kids cross that street to go to Jack's?
The swimming pool's not over the side of there yet.
But
The
I'm-
recreation
it's-
department's not over there
But
yet.
people are still crossing that street every single day, even though we have crosswalks in. I mean, we can put them in, but we can't make people follow the rules. We would like for them to follow the rules, but they don't. But that's.
Another way that we looked at addressing that, and I have talked to Chief Hughes, and he said that generally when he makes a recommendation to AlDOT, since they are the ones patrolling the street, that they have the capability of doing these things. That's the way I come into town every day, Mr. Crawford. So you hit 35 miles an hour right there at Subway, and our recommendation is to back 35 miles an hour up to Piggly Wiggly. So, as you know, the people also cross 21 there every single day to go to Piggly Wiggly or KFC. So we want to back the speed limit up to 35 there. And when you hit Subway there, right before the top of the hill, you would hit 25 miles an hour, which is considered residential speed limits. So if you're going 25 miles an hour, paying attention, if you're in the correct lane, you should have plenty of time to respond if someone's trying to cross the street.
I've had instances myself with bottlenecking down from that 5 lane down to 2 in a turning lane. This is the issue already. I have my choice of spots. I'm not privy to making that choice, but myself personally, something about a major highway. That is the busiest intersection in Sylacauga other than 280 on the other side of town. You can't tell me that those cars, I'm from Tennessee, and the new mayor is from Oklahoma. We're coming down there together. It's about 25 miles per hour. He's probably going straight through Sylacauga. We get here, we're going to ball and get somebody got to stop and kill. Meanwhile, somebody's come off the side streets. I know that's, I'm making all kinds of scenarios in my mind, but I still have a concern about bicycle riders, cars, and people in that area for traffic. In that gas line and something else, that area used to flood. Now, I might be the only one to remember that. The area used to flood.
Yeah, it's not in the floodplain. That was something we were told when we were looking at properties, and we went back and looked at the maps and everything. It's definitely not in the floodplain. I don't know another way to address getting people across Broadway besides the infrastructure that's already in place. We can request one on the end of 9th Street, but that would obviously be much safer than 10th Street. But currently, the sidewalk doesn't continue down 9th Street from Drew Court. You know, I think that's an assumption that just people made that it was already there, but it's definitely not there. So whoever designed the sidewalks years and years ago made sure that kids that were coming out of the Drew Court area on that side of the street had a path to cross at a red light at 8th Street. And you know, if you're coming out of Drew Court, you can't cross private property. You would have to jump the field at the Babe Ruth field, jump it again to get off, and then cross the park to go straight to this location. And that really just doesn't seem feasible either.
And keep in mind that we're here tonight, they had a steering committee, they had experts and local leaders get together, and this is the site that they chose out of all of the sites that were available. So our purpose tonight as the planning commission is to vote on whether or not this particular parcel of property, if it meets our location, character, and extent, and the master plan of the city of Sylacauga. So if anyone is, someone to make a motion to move to a roll call vote for acceptance of this property, and acceptance of the location, character, and extent of the property.
A motion.
Second.
Okay, so let's do a roll call vote.
Jane McGee,
Approve.
Jim Heindel,
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, is that a yay or?
What's your yay?
Nancy McKay,
Yes.
Philip Morris,
Yes.
Tiffany Nix,
Yes.
Julie Sanders,
Yes.
Tara Douglas,
Yes.
Keith Honeycutt,
Yes.
and Alvin Crawford.
Nay.
Okay, so that is a majority vote for acceptance of the location, character, and extent, which everyone's calling a site approval. That will go next to city council, and this is our recommendation to them, and then city council will approve of the site or not approve of it, whichever one they need to do. The next step in this process, though, is we have to figure out if we can, it's zoned as downtown business district, so we're gonna get an ordinance situation here that's gonna take some time to move forward. So it's downtown business district. We had discussed making it conditional use for this particular facility. But there's a cleaner way to do it with rezoning, but there are ways that we might be able, I know East Alabama Regional Planning has been working on it. And so Eric, if you'd like to.
Okay, so as you mentioned, downtown business district does not list public recreation facility as a use at all. There is a use called institutional use. There's a use called places of assembly. Places of assembly, there's two different levels of intensity. One of a 99 max occupancy, so that's be below this size of this property, this project. Then there's 100 through 500 max occupancy. Again, the maximum occupancy would exceed that. Institutional use seems like the more logical option there. Your ordinance defines that as a facility that provides religious, fraternal, recreational, social, educational, or cultural activities. And also in the low intensity, again, that's facilities up to 4,000 square feet or places of assembly up to 99 seats. So again, that's too small. So the high intensity, and that's, you guys have a copy of your zoning ordinance, it's on page 2.9. It's government and cultural facilities greater than 12,500 square feet. Health institutions greater than 35,000 square feet, or places of assembly greater than 300 seats. High schools, universities, colleges, junior colleges, and so on. Or other institutions greater than 35,000 square feet. So it's our recommendation that the institutional use of high intensity meets that definition for this facility. The other option is, as I mentioned, is to rezone to B1, which does have use by right, or actually it's conditional use of public recreation. So there is a little bit of inconsistency in your zoning ordinance that doesn't really describe all of the various permutations, but there is a path for institutional use, high intensity, as a conditional use on this property as downtown business district.
Okay.
So,
And in your opinion, which would be best, or is it?
so the conditional use pathway on high intensity institutional use seems like it's a perfect fit for it. Like I said, in B1, there is an outdoor recreation use. I recognize that there's also a public or indoor component of this as well. So it doesn't fit neatly into any of the buckets. I think the institutional use makes the most sense considering the definition. You kind of have to include a couple different components of the zoning ordinance to get there. It takes 2 + 2 to get 4, but it's a clear path there.
Okay. So the first step is that we can decide if the downtown business district with the conditional use institutional would be correct for this location. And then we need to have the application for conditional use.
Correct. You need an application for that conditional use, and that does involve a public hearing after that is submitted.
Okay. So with what Mr. Wright just said from East Alabama, from our consultants, does anyone have any questions or any discussion before we vote and decide which direction to go? So would someone like to make a motion to accept the downtown business district conditional use?
I'll make a motion. Second.
All in favor? Any nays? Now, the next question that I'll have for everyone is, Mr. Masters has sent all the information. Now, Mr. Wright, did you say that we should have an actual application from City Hall, or is what we receive from Parks and Rec sufficient?
So the ordinance, your zoning ordinance, references a conditional use application. We've not received a copy of that or don't know that that exists. So if one exists, I think that's the appropriate way to proceed. If not, I think using the rezoning application, but noting the components required for the conditional use as described in your zoning ordinance there. And we can kind of review that if that's helpful. But there's a process described for that conditional use process. I think that probably makes the most sense. So if there happens to be one that we just didn't get a copy of, that conditional use, normally when zoning ordinances are developed, there are these sort of associated forms kind of come along at that point. If y'all would like us to put together quickly, we could come up with one, which y'all would need to then adopt that as a part of your zoning ordinance.
But we don't have one.
You don't have one as far as I know. There could be one kicking around in a file drawer somewhere at City Hall, but we just don't have.
We had this conversation, we were on a three-way call, Mr. Wright and Stephen Allen, who's our lead architect. As you know, we came into the last meeting preparing for it, we thought we were trying to submit the application for the conditional use because we felt like there was a verbal, conversation about site approval. But he is correct, I've been through everything on the city's website and on the state, and there is no document that says conditional use.
But that is something.
But it's referenced in your zoning ordinance.
So we need to have one produced.
Well, I think having one on file probably is the long-term the best practice.
Okay. Would we need you guys to put that together for us so Mr. Masters and Parks and Rec can fill it out?
That's something we can do if that's what y'all would like. It's what's required is specified in the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
So that probably makes the most sense to include. We could just put it together pretty quickly for y'all to consider. Y'all have a meeting coming up
In 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Which y'all could.
And would that be for us to consider that document?
I think so.
Been adopted.
Is that y'all's? I don't really see a different process for y'all to just accept a new document into your ordinance.
So how do we usually accept a new document? And it sounds like he's saying that in 2 weeks we will decide whether or not we wanted to accept the document. Then if we accept the application, then we would schedule a public hearing in 2 more weeks or at the next meeting.
Now, currently, doesn't the application that doesn't exist yet,
Right.
doesn't it say it has to be on file for 20 days? Can we include the 20 days that Parks and Rec has already given us all the information and the application? It's not a formal application, but it is an application they typed up.
So I think the spirit of your zoning ordinance means 20 days of review of the application by the planning commission. So I don't know that, I think that's an edge case to say that they could just accept, that y'all can just accept a previous 20 days without a submission.
Okay. Would it be faster to do rezoning in a situation like this?
So rezoning requires like notification of all the property owners and then.
2 public hearings, correct?
And then 2 public hearings, because it requires the planning commission's public hearing.
So this would start
And then the
with
city council's approval of that public hearing. So I think this is, well, cumbersome to accept a new document, a new application. I think that is more expeditious.
So we can have the application ready and then we vote for it next meeting. So this is where if everybody, this gets into frustrations with ordinances and timing, but we're moving forward, so keep that in mind and we'll get all this figured out. So,
Can I ask a question?
yes,
So if he's gonna prepare that document for y'all, for you to what do you got to receive the document or put it in your ordinance or whatever. If we get a copy of that and go ahead and meet all of the requirements for us, once you've received that document, can you go ahead and accept our application at the next meeting?
We should be able to, correct, but that gives us plenty of time to do that.
Conditional use is a public hearing.
But for the application.
They gotta have the application
Yeah,
to accept the date,
applications.
right?
And then we would set the date for the public hearing.
And process-wise, if that's okay with y'all, I don't see any huge hiccups there.
So,
I think that might be a question to Philip, because you remember we've had conditional use here, or conditional uses in the past. And they submitted conditional use applications. So it must have one on file.
It's referenced in your
It
ordinance, it should exist somewhere.
So I think it is here. I think that somebody has to ask you.
would be nice if one of them here tell us they had on file, absolutely it should be.
So I think we need to look into that.
Hey, Julie, Mike said that he had given city chair and vice chair 2 options on the application. I don't know if that was for this conditional usage.
It's right here extra, but he was reading off, it was this email that Mike sent, we all got a copy of it. He was saying that we could do, was it B1 or B2, and he was explaining that
So it didn't
there were some
apply to that.
stipulations in it that wasn't gonna work.
Yeah.
Now, we're just wondering out loud about whether or not we already have that conditional use application. Because I believe it is there, because we've heard conditional uses in the past.
And it's referenced in the, ordinance.
so either way, we can find out. We'll still have time to get it ready before the next meeting.
Sure. So it's not-
Okay, so that doesn't change this current timeline.
You just make sure when y'all get it, that we get a copy, so
Absolutely.
us and the architects have time to fill it out and make sure you have all the necessary information.
Yes, we'll do that.
And you're not slowing anything down. I mean, with the site approval, the design team's gonna continue. And there's a lot of time left for the final drawings to be done, so you have some, I know you will, we get it done as fast as possible, but you have time to get it figured out.
And we just need to dot all of our i's and cross all of our t's and make sure that we're following all the ordinances and the procedures and protocols. So we'll do that. All right, so we've got a plan to move forward. Do we need to vote on conditional use?
They have to apply for special.
Okay, so that was our additional business that needed to be discussed. And before we go, any reports from Mayor Heigl?
Nothing at this time, Madam
Okay.
Chairman.
Mary Morris, anything to report from the county?
Nope.
Okay. And nobody's here from building services. Any questions or comments from audience? Okay. I have a motion to adjourn the meeting. Second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays?